Welcome to Developer Service YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're going to be using Speechmatics to create a YouTube content analysis tool that allows us to analyze YouTube videos like this one from Linus Torvalds about the Rust's impact on the Linux kernel. We are able to create or retrieve the transcript with speaker identification. As you can see, it returns also a summary of the video. It returns the chapters markers, not just with the title, but also with the description. And we even will build a chatbot so we can ask questions about the video, as in what is this video about, and retrieve the answers to any questions that we might have. So let's see how we can build this tool. Okay, let's see in terms of the code, how we can build such an application. Let's start with the requirements. We're going to be using Python decouple because we're using an environmental variable file. We're using Streamlit, that's how the application is built. Use the YouTube DLP so that you can download the YouTube video so you can extract the audio. We're going to obviously be using the Speechmatics library for Python, of course. We are going to be using OpenAI and ChromaDB and TikTok and LangChain so that we can build our chatbot to retrieve the questions and answers about the video. In terms of the environmental variables and APIs key that you're going to need, you're obviously going to need the Speechmatics API key that you can sign up and get one for free. We're going to be also using OpenAI for the chatbot, so you're also going to be needing an OpenAI API key, which you can also retrieve by signing up to OpenAI. And now we can take a look at the code itself. So the code is divided into three files. We have the Speechmatic client, we have the question, and we have the main file, which is the one that runs the Streamlit application and that orchestrates all the logic. Speechmatics client is to interface with the Speechmatics API, and the question is to handle all the logic related with the chatbot. And like I mentioned, the main contains the UI definition for Streamlit and also all the logic. Let's take a look at the Speechmatics client Python file. So we'll do our imports. So obviously we need the decouple for the config. We are importing the Speechmatics for the connection settings, also the batch client that we'll be using to call the API and to perform the transcript. We're also needing Streamlit because we'll be going to be caching the result from the API. We start by defining the API key in the language. In this case, we are defining that the language is also going to be English. We are defining the API settings. In this case, we are passing in the URL for the Speechmatics API and also the auth token, which is our API key. We are defining some transcription parameters. Concretely, we are defining which type we want, which in this case is transcription. We're passing in the language, we're passing in terms the dearithization that we want the speaker. We want the enhance mode, and we're also passing in our summarization config, saying that we want it to be informative, also detailed in returning paragraphs as you have seen, and no configuration for the chapters itself. In terms of the functions that we have defined in this file, we have three functions. We have a transcribe function, which does the actual transcription. We are caching it in Streamlit. That allows us to, when we are asking the questions to the chatbot, that we don't need to be reloading and calling the API again. We have another function to format the chapters so that it's properly formatted to easily present it in the UI. And the same thing for formatting the transcript, so to also present it in the UI with Streamlit. Let's take a look at the transcribe function. Well, like I mentioned, we're going to be using a batch client, which we're passing in the settings. We're going to be opening it with the with keyword so that we can handle all the resources. First thing we do is we submit a job. So we use the Speechmat client, the one that we have defined just here. We are using the client. We are submitting the job. We're passing in the audio file with the file path that we will receive in this function, and the configuration that we have just saw before in terms of the transcription config, and that will give us a job ID. We're printing some logs, And then we are going to be waiting for this job ID to be complete. So we submit the job, and here we are waiting for the job to be completed. Wait for completion. Of course, we pass in our job ID that we just had before, and we are saying that in the return format, we want it to be JSON, and that is going to be stored in the transcription variable. After that, the API has completed analyzing in the other file. It will return us both the summary, which will be extracting from the transcription summary content, the chapters, which we extract from the chapters key, and the transcript, which it's from part of the results from the transcription variable. And of course, we're going to be returning this to the main module so that it can be presented in the screen. The other function that we have defined in this file is to formatting the chapters, so format chapters, which will receive the chapters, which is also going to be the output of the previous function that will be passing in from the UI. So we're going to be defining our chapter list, and we're going to be iterating each of the chapters that we have in this in the input variable. We're defining the start time, storing the start time and the end time, and also the title of the chapter, and also the summary. Then we're going to be doing the formatting. So we're going to be formatting the start time with a beautiful format of the hour, minute, and second, and the same thing for the end time. And after that formatting, we're just going to append to the chapter list. We're just going to append a dictionary with the start, the end time, and the title and the summary. Of course, the start and end time are formatted from the seconds definition that comes out of the API. And finally, we have the format transcript function, which obviously receives the transcript. Also creates a transcript list and the current speaker. So this function is pretty much responsible for keeping track of the speakers and the corresponding text to each speaker. So we are going through all the different alternatives in the transcript, and alternatives is the text from the transcription. We're going to be getting one of the particular alternatives. We're going to get the speaker that is from that text that has been transcribed. We're keeping track if it's the current speaker or if it's a new speaker. Then we're getting the text and detecting the type of the end of sentence. Again, filling in if it's written an end of sentence in the alternative itself. So if we are handling the same speaker, so if the current speaker is the speaker that we are handling, we are just, and if it's not a punctuation, then we're just going to be creating a space and adding the content. So it's just separating each of the words. And if it's the end of the sentence, then of course we are going to be adding some new lines to the content. So basically we're adding in the text separated by spaces until there's a punctuation or until we reach the end of sentence for that particular speaker. In case there is a change of speaker, so whatever was the previous content, we are appending that to the transcription list with the speaker and the corresponding content. And here we're replacing the S that comes from the API with the speaker description itself. We are resetting the text and also with the current speaker. So, and then again, the function resumes and it will pick up the new speaker. When all the transcript has finished, or when the transcript only has one speaker, then all the content that has been aggregated, it is added again to the transcription list for that particular speaker, and the content as the text. And of course, we're returning the transcript list, which is the list of the text organized by speaker. Let's take a look now at the question file, question.py file, and that is the one responsible for handling the OpenAI chatbot. So we have a couple of imports, of course, again, the config for the environmental variables, LangChain, because we're going to also be using LangChain along as OpenAI. LangChain as the framework and OpenAI as the AI, so that we can organize the chatbot, so all the necessary imports for that. We're of course retrieving our OpenAI API key from the config file, and we have defined a couple of functions. We have one for loading documents, one for splitting the documents to create the retriever for the database, one helper function that processes the data, and one function to start the chat, and finally the function itself that is responsible for asking or to processing the question. So let's take a look at the functions and what each of them does. So we start by taking a look at the load documents function, which receives the transcript, the summary, and the chapters. So we are saving all of those text to a temporary file, and that is helpful so that we can create the loaders in LangChain. That it's easier to retrieve them from a text file. So that's what we have done here, creating the temporary file and then doing the text loader for those files. We merge all the loaders into one single loader, and we load all the documents, meaning we load all the file content with merging all the loads into one single file and one single variable that we return as documents. After we have loaded the documents, we have the function responsible for splitting the documents. So it receives the documents that we just saw before. It creates a character text splitter from LangChain with a chunk size of 4,000. So that means that it's going to be split every 4,000 characters, and we're not doing any overlap. And we're just calling the split documents on those documents, and this will create all the split text that we'll return from this function. Next, we're going to be defining our create retriever function, which receives the text that we have just see from the split. We're instantiating a chroma DB from the documents, so from all the documents that we have selected for. We're using the OpenAI embeddings, and of course we need to pass the OpenAI API key. We are creating from the chroma DB, we are creating that as a retriever, and we are returning that retriever. Next, we have the function that kind of orchestrates all this data processing, which is the process data. So it first retrieves all the documents from the load documents, then it retrieves all the text from splitting the documents, and finally it retrieves the retriever from the create retriever function, which we return as the end result of this processing data function. Then we have the function that is responsible for starting the chat, which is the function that it's actually called from the main file. The start chat and the ask questions are the functions that are called from the main file. The start chat to start the chat, so it will receive the transcription, the summary, and the chapters. It will use the function that we saw before, the process data, to create the retriever. We're creating a conversation buffer memory, so that because we are on a chatbot, so the chatbot should have some memory, so that the user can refer to previous asked questions. So we're creating that memory. We're using the LangChain conversation buffer memory. We're setting up our model, which in this case it's going to be chat from the OpenAI. We're using the old GPT 3.5 Turbo. It is old, but it's also good in terms of cost. So it has a lower cost, and for the intended purposes of this Q&A in the YouTube video transcript, it works perfectly fine. So of course you need to pass our OpenAI API key. We're passing a temperature of 0 because I don't want the model to hallucinate. It wants us to give the answers related to the context of the transcription. We're creating a question and answer chain with the conversation retrieval chain from LangChain, and that is created from the LLM, so from the model that we have just created before with OpenAI. The retriever that we have created, we wanted to return the source documents, although we're not showing that in the UI later on. And of course, it is going to be using the memory that we have just defined. And it returns the Q&A chain so that then it can be used in the UI. Finally, we have the ask question function, which receives a question, retrieves a Q&A chain that we just defined before, and asks that question into the chain, retrieves the result, which will return from the result, which is the answer of the AI to the chatbot question. Finally, we have our main.py file, which is responsible for creating not just UI in Streamlit and the execution of the application in Streamlit, but also of the necessary logic to process the YouTube video. So we start by having the imports. We have the Streamlit, of course, the YouTube download for downloading. We have the start chat from the question file and from the Speechmatics client, which is our previous file that we defined, our first file. We have the transcribe function, the format chapters, and the format transcript, so that we can organize everything in the UI. So in terms of the Streamlit UI, we start by defining our page title, the YouTube content analysis. Using Speechmatics, we want a wide layout so that it occupies the whole width of the web page. We're also setting the title, so this is what will be shown in in the tab in the browser, we're creating one single input field that will receive the YouTube URL. And after that, we're going to be doing the processing. So we start by checking if the YouTube URL has been filled in. We're going to be creating a status which will be showing the loading, saying that we are processing the file. And we're just going to be also writing what is the current step that we are in the processing. In terms of the processing, first we're going to be getting the video ID of the YouTube video itself, and we are going to be using the YouTube download for that and extracting the info method. Pass our YouTube URL. We do not want to download in this case because we just want to retrieve the ID. And we're going to be using this video ID so that we create our file name, because we're also going to be storing this temporarily into an audio file. So we retrieve our video ID, and with that we create our file name with the MP3 extension. We're setting then the options for the YouTube download to download the actual audio. So we're saying that we want the best audio, and the file name is going to be the output. Then we're actually downloading the video, in this case the audio from the video with YouTube download with the options that we have defined before, and we are downloading the video from the URL that we had just passed. After the video has been downloaded, and it will be downloaded to that file name that we have defined before, we're going to be performing the transcript on that video by calling the Speechmatics API through the transcribe function that we have defined in the Speechmatics client file. We're going to be passing in the file name, which is the audio path, the file path for the audio file. In this, as we've seen before, it will return the transcript and the summary and also the chapters. After the API has returned the transcript, we're going to be displaying the results. We're going to just putting a little divider on the web page. We are processing the transcript. So again, with the transcript that has been returned, we are formatting that transcript with the format transcript, which is going to be stored in the transcript list variable. And we are just iterating for all of the lines that are in that list. And we are just writing the speaker and the corresponding text for that speaker. After that, we have another divider where we will be writing the summary that comes from the Speechmatics API that we just write directly. We're creating another divider, and that will be for showing the chapters. Again, we're using the format chapters function that we have seen before, passing in the chapters. That gives us a chapter list, and we are just iterating through that chapter list and writing each of the chapters with the start and end time with the title, and below that it's going to be writing the summary for that chapter. Then we have the logic to prepare our chat. Again, we're just putting a divider so it's visually easier to read in the web page. So again, we're creating a spinner so that we can see when it's loading and preparing the chat. So we're preparing the context for the chat itself. So we'll be preparing the transcript text itself, which we are going to be creating from the transcript list. So we're just organizing that text in terms of the speaker with the text that has been passed, each of it in one single line. The summary, we're just starting the summary directly. For the chapters, similar principle as before. For each of the chapters there, we're just attaching that appending that to a chapter's text string with a start and end, and also with the title. In this case, we're not using the description. And then we call the start chat function, which are the transcript, the summary, and the chapter's text. And that returns our question and answer chain that we can use to ask a question. And that's precisely what we're going to be doing next. So we are putting in an input on the web page so that the user can ask a question. If that question has been filled in, we're again showing a little spinner while the AI is processing. We're calling the question answer chain with the question that will retrieve the result. And then we're just displaying that answer on the screen, which with a little caption in the markdown of the answer that comes from the AI, from the chatbot. And that is all the logic that is necessary to build the YouTube content analysis application with Streamlit and Speechmatics. So let's now see the application in action. So as you can see, the Streamlit application has loaded. I'm going to paste in the URL of the video that we have seen before at the beginning of the video. I press enter so that it starts the processing. As you can see, we have the spinner with the processing the YouTube. We are downloading the YouTube video to an audio file. We're calling now the Speechmatics API, and the transcript from the API might take some time to be processed. So let's just wait for a little moment. And through the magic of filmmaking, the API is finishing the processing. So as you can see, we have our transcript, we have our speaker 1 and the corresponding text to the speaker 1, we have our speaker 2 in the corresponding text for the speaker 2. So this is what the format the transcription function does. And you can see speaker 1 again, the corresponding text, and speaker 2, the text, and that's where the transcription ends. We have our summary, which is with the 2 points as we defined to be informative. First point and second point. We have our chapters, which is have our start time and our end time. It has our title and it has our description. So this is what the format chapters function does. And finally, we have our chatbot where we can ask a question. So we're going to be asking, what is this video about? And we press enter so that the processing gets executed. As you can see, the chat was being prepared. Now the chat is processing, and we have our answer. This video is about the introduction of the programming language Rust into the kernel development process. So as you can see, very useful YouTube content analysis tool. Let me bring the page back to the top. So from one single YouTube video, we have the transcript with the different speakers organization. We have a very informative summary. We have a full chapters list with titles and descriptions, and of course the start and end time. And we have a chatbot where we can ask questions even with a typo. And the chatbot understands. We can have a chatbot and ask different questions about the video itself. So very useful YouTube content analysis tool that we have built using Streamlit and Speechmatics for the transcription of the video. So now let's compare our transcription with our speaker organization text. Let's compare that with the standard YouTube transcript. So I have the video here open, and if I go to the details of the video, I can show the transcript. This transcript comes from YouTube, and as you can see, it doesn't have any speaker organization, and also does not seem to be handling very well the text or the speech from each of the speakers. Let me refer to one part so we can see that from the beginning, for instance, apologize to the simultaneous translators because I have no idea how you could translate this into Japanese. That's the first sentence that the first speaker says. And if you go and see the transcript from YouTube, I apologize to the simultaneous translators because I have no idea how to translate this into Japanese. So you have three different text into three different lines, and you have no idea if that is from one speaker or three different speakers. And with our tool, you have the clear understanding from the first speaker. That is all the text that has been pronounced. So now let's compare our chapters that have the time, the title, and the description. Let's compare to that what Gemini from Google can produce. And as you can see here, I asked the question generated chapters for this video, and I passed the video URL of the video that we just saw before. And according to Gemini, this is the chapters, and we have chapters with a timestamp, a small title. And if we compare to our own chapters, we can see that our chapters provide much more detail, not just in terms of the time frame, but also in terms of the more meaningful title, and also a very useful description on what is being discussed inside that chapter. If we compare that to the Google Gemini. Let's now compare our chatbot, where we ask what is this video about, and we have very detailed answer that the video is about the introduction of the programming language Rust into the kernel development process. And let's compare that with Google Gemini. So I asked the question, what is this video about? And I pass again the URL of the video. So we have, as you can see, the first initial sentence is very similar to ours. But then the video starts, the Gemini starts providing a lot of details about what is this video about without paying attention to what is actually useful information. We can see that it starts saying that the video starts with Linus Torvalds apologizing to the simultaneous translators. It talks about being in Rust and all of that. Yeah, so as you see, it does not provide the very useful information, although it provides a lot of information, the Google Gemini. It does not provide direct and useful and meaningful information to the question, what is this video about? As if we look to our tool, we have a very exact idea what the video is about. The introduction of the programming language, that the speakers discussed innovation in the kernel development and the anticipation of Rust to become a part of that kernel, and their different involvements in the effort of the kernel development. So 3 sentences, but that summarize very much what is this. The chatbot summarizes very well what is this video about. In terms of the Google Gemini description, it is very extensive and long, but it does not immediately provide what is the content of this video. And that is all for this video. So we saw we can create a very useful YouTube content analysis tool using Streamlit, and especially using Speechmatics for the transcription of the audio. So like this video if you like this content. Follow me so that you can be up to date with my newest content. And until next time, happy coding!